I had a little bit of a identity crisis. In my mind, I was like, you're a terrible actor. You're not chill at all. Everyone's gonna know.
Why?
Because I felt like a phony.
Timothy Granaderos is a Filipino-American actor and model best known for his roles on the Netflix hit show 13 Reasons Why and Hulu's Tagged.
In addition to his entertainment career, Tim is a former Division I soccer player and fitness enthusiast.
Get that gig, get that job, get that brand partnership. Are you finding yourself at times just like, it's just too much?
Our industry is exactly that. It's like you have to stay relevant in some way or another, or else you will be forgotten. That's just the truth. Sometimes I don't share what I'm going through and like what I'm actually feeling.
That's a hard one.
We all have our own internal battles.
How do you pull yourself out of that?
Keep people around you that have your best interests at heart. I am an actor, but it's part of who I am.
Okay, so what's the rest of Tim look like?
Oh boy, we're starting light here.
We find it very interesting that the majority of you who watch and listen to this show aren't yet subscribed to our channels across Spotify, Apple, YouTube. It would mean the world to us if you can do us that small kindness. It allows us to continue to bring on amazing guests week after week and continue to provide you with amazing value and content. It's the only thing we'll ever ask of you. If you can hit that follow or subscribe button, it would mean the world to us. Thank you so much and enjoy the episode.
Well, Tim, welcome to Gents Talk.
Hey, it's happy to be here. Really good at clapping.
Yeah. No, this is exciting. We were talking before we started rolling about golf and how it's just an excuse for men to talk to each other.
Yeah.
You're playing in a couple of golf tournaments and
Yeah.
you're talking about relearning it. I was telling you how I just started golfing, and by started golfing, I played golf in Vegas one time.
Very good.
Now I feel like I'm a pro because I hit it once
That's
really well.
That's the thing about golf. One good shot keeps you coming back.
Yeah, exactly. I said that about alcohol too. But I'm really excited to have this conversation with you because I'm fascinated by a lot of what you're doing. And when you and I connected over the phone and sort of chatted about this very conversation, we kind of struck a chord around what people see from Tim on the outside versus who Tim is, who the private persona is.
Yeah.
So I think I want to start the conversation just by asking you, what do I need to know about you to understand the type of man that you are?
Oh boy, we're starting light here. That's interesting because I think the conversation came from talking about social media and representing yourself a certain way, and kind of social media can become the highlight reel of your life, and oftentimes it does. And there's this like conflicting feeling of, I'm going through all this stuff in here, but I project and show kind of how I want to be represented and what I want people to think of me at that time. I think the most important thing to know about me is that I'm in constant pursuit of just being as in tune emotionally as I can be with what's going on around me, who I want to be now in the present, and also, 10 years down the road. So, and a good golfer.
A good golfer, yeah. Can you reasonably do that in a place like Los Angeles where you're constantly surrounded by people who are putting on facades to show a certain version of themselves, and here you are trying to stay authentic? Yeah,
it's tough. We definitely live in a city of make-believe at times. My job is make-believe. Being an actor is, becoming a character. And there's definitely many elements of that in LA. I grew up, born and raised in Michigan. I think it's just really important to surround yourself with the people that you align with, because it's easy to kind of get swept away into the LA Hollywood dream.
Yeah.
And I think I've always done a good job of keeping a distance from it, but also being involved. And it is what you make of it, just like anything else. So it's kind of up to you to, choose your fate or choose your path.
What's the backstory there in terms of how you went from Michigan to Hollywood here?
Yeah, so I went to Michigan State, played soccer there. After I graduated, I was kind of lost. I didn't really know where I wanted to go or what I wanted to do. I had a degree in advertising. But my sister had been out in LA for quite a long time. She's a makeup artist. So she was like, come on out. I'll get you a job on a set. And she did. I worked as a PA. And then from there, just continued to work in production and eventually found acting. Yeah.
What is it about the craft that lured you in? Because it doesn't sound like you came to LA similar to the thousands of stories that exist of like, I'm coming to LA to make it big.
Yeah.
It's like you're just trying to find yourself.
Yeah.
But then through that process, you found acting. What was the lure there?
Yeah, I really defined myself as an athlete for most of my life. And then when soccer went away after college, I kind of didn't know where to put all this energy that I had. I was used to training 5-6 days a week. I was used to playing games on the weekend. I was used to competing and being with the team. And then, I wanted to put that energy towards something, but I just didn't know what. And then I kind of naturally found acting, and it filled that void immediately. In fact, there are many parallels between acting and being an athlete.
Like what?
It's the preparation that goes into getting ready for a character or a shoot. It's the ability to kind of deal with the turbulence of the industry, like a season. It's taking losses and then celebrating wins.
How do you take your losses?
I go to Griffith Park and I run. That's what I do every time. Anytime.
Not away from the problem.
Not away from the problem. I just it's energy for me.
Yeah.
I have this energy and I have to focus it into something that's productive for me. So I turn that into exercise, which I immediately kind of releases any of the stresses that come with taking loss. There have been so many times where it's been between like me and one other guy or me and two other guys for this amazing project. And it's like down the line, they're like, they love you. And then last minute falls through. And it's just like, you have to have the ability to just pick yourself up and then just continue forward and trust the process too.
I'm fascinated because actors are, for all intents and purposes, facing rejection more often than they get yeses.
Yes.
And for someone who goes into that industry knowing that, you're essentially setting yourself up to, not to fail, but that's not what I'm trying to say, but you're setting yourself up to basically receive an insurmountable amount of rejection sometimes, where it just feels like it's so much. And more often than not, the more actors I talk to, the more they tell me, most times it's not even because of your talent.
Yeah.
And there's so many reasons to that. How are you navigating those rejections? Because at some point you're like, all right, I tried, it didn't work, I'm going to keep going. But then sometimes you'll find yourself stuck in that pattern and not in a good way. How do you pull yourself out of that?
I think you said it earlier, you have to recognize that a lot of this industry and life is just out of your control. So I try to take control of things that I can control, taking care of myself mentally, physically, constantly, preparing for the next opportunity that comes, because I think it's a numbers game in some degree. It's like the more opportunities you get, you're bound to kind of land one of them. Mm-hmm. So being ready for the opportunity when it comes and not just sitting and waiting for the opportunity to come. But it's definitely, it's a challenging career for sure. But the victories and the wins and the being on set with other actors, even if it's, a small project or a big project, it's like you celebrate every single victory you get in this industry, because there are definitely lots of no's.
What was the most recent big victory that made you feel like I earned that one? Yeah.
What's funny is obviously the industry is kind of in a weird spot. We went through a year-long strike last year, writers and actors. And before that, we were in a pandemic. So as a result of both of those things, we don't get to go into casting offices and read with a person in the room like you and me are sitting right now.
A lot of them are virtual now.
All virtual. I've had like maybe 2 in-room auditions in the past 4 years.
Wow.
Whereas before I was going in maybe 4 times a week. And I was building this relationships with casting directors. I was seeing them, they knew me. So they're like, oh, maybe Tim for that role. So they bring me in more. But the latest victory, I had an in-room audition probably a month and a half ago, and it was for a sitcom, and I was kind of nervous, I haven't done this in so long. It's just like a weird feeling. And I went in there, and all the other actors, we shared the space, and we're all looking around each other like, this is weird, right? And
You're feeling this too.
Yeah, like everyone was saying the same thing because, we'd all been out so long.
Yeah.
And I went in and I got to work with the casting director. I got to do the scene like three different ways, and she gave me notes and we were just playing. And in the end, she looked at me and she was like, "You're a good actor." And it wasn't like this huge, I didn't even book it. But I walked out of there and I was like, "Oh my gosh, thank you." I just feel like it's a little nudge in the right direction to keep going. And those are like kind of the small victories that I'm talking about, which are big now.
That's huge, just to have that feedback. I imagine when you're doing something virtually, you kind of record it. Now you're self-criticizing and judging it and then re-recording it. And then you send it off and you're like, should I have done it differently?
100%, every time. And a lot of times you don't hear back. Even if you're in the mix, you're one of 5 guys, you just don't hear back. So you just kind of send it off in the ether and you go about your day and then just hope that the next one comes along and it fits you. So.
I gotta ask, when you walk into a room with other actors who are auditioning for a role similar to like the same role that you're auditioning for, generally, I envision the room looking like a bunch of yous, basically. Does that ever weird you out? Like you're like, you look familiar.
Oh yeah, it was very common back in the day. I say back in the day because it was 4 years ago, 5 years ago when we were going in room, and you would see a lot of the same faces. And in fact, I have a picture from an audition that I went out for. Me and 2 other guys on the couch, brown hair, same size, all wearing the exact same gray shirt, black pants, boots. And it's just kind of comical because you see all the same people. But later on, I got to know like this guy through the acting network. And I'm looking at my Instagram pictures and he's one of the other guys on the couch with me. And now he's blowing up. He's working all the time. And it's like, it's cool because there's a competitiveness, but there's also this understanding that we kind of celebrate each other's victories. So
where does envy and jealousy play a role in there? And I asked that, I want to preface it because the gents here and I were having a conversation just yesterday around the distinction between envy and jealousy being coming from a place of malice, maliciousness. Whereas I believe that sometimes envy could come from a place of like, oh, you're doing something that I want to do, and it replace you with anyone else, and it's still the thing is what I want to be doing that I'm not doing.
Yeah.
We all feel it.
Yeah.
So how do you keep that at bay from overtaking you?
That's actually a really good question. I think it honestly comes with age. You see a lot of projects that you're like, I would be perfect for that. Or you have a buddy who books this role and immediately you're just, I think it's more envy because, like I said before, you celebrate each other's victories and you're happy for them, but you wish that was you. So I think you really have to, just life experience and my time on this earth has provided me the ability to kind of recognize the difference between the two. And going back to what I was saying earlier, either way, it's an energy that builds. So finding a way to harness that feeling you have and just use it to set yourself up for the next audition or whatever you're doing.
Is there a process that you go by to mentally motivate yourself as you're getting ready for a big audition? I keep the nerves at bay.
What's funny is like you think the nerves would go away at some point. For me, they never do. In big auditions, I always get nervous. And sometimes it has gotten in the way of me just being present in my own body in the room, which is, it's a bummer when it happens, but, I try and have my routine. I have, some songs I listen to. When I would first audition, I used to just check my pulse and just breathe in and out. You have to have a routine, just like when I'm playing sports before a big game. You have to have a routine that sets you up, to get in the zone. But needless to say, you walk in the room, there's, 10 network people just staring at you and the lights on you, and then you got to go, you got to perform. But that's kind of like the adrenaline I appreciate.
I don't think people fully comprehend how challenging that must be. Like to walk in, imagine doing your regular job. You walk in, there's a group of 10 people who are basically judging you. That's why they're there. Yeah. And then immediately just being like, okay, thank you. And that's it.
That thank you is triggering to me. I've heard that so many times, and you're looking for the room for a little did I do the thing you wanted me to do? And sometimes you get it, but sometimes it's just that. It's okay, thank you. And you walk out and you're like, oh my gosh, I blew it. This is that was my chance. That was my chance, and it's gone. but sometimes you end up booking that role. So I think just not reading too deep into it and knowing that you did your best job in the audition and then just leaving it there.
Is there a lesson that you've been able to parcel out from all of the rejections in auditions that you've been able to apply in your daily life?
That's a constant, I think, learning process. Just like anything else, you kind of have to have the ability to find the silver lining in everything. But check back in a couple of years, because I'll tell you when I get there. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Yeah.
Well, maybe let's reframe this. What was the biggest lesson you've learned from one of your failures? I don't want to say the most recent failure, and it doesn't have to be a failure in the sense of like it was a large scale failure. It could be something small, but what was the lesson that you learned from that still sticks with you?
Yeah, there's actually one very specific moment. I was working on a show and we had different directors cycling through. So I was working with this like old school director and we were rehearsing the scene before we shot it. And I remember we had done it a couple times and he was like, okay, everyone can go, but Tim, will you stay? And I was like, oh no, I feel like I was in school, like getting yelled at.
Yeah.
And he basically just said to me, just chill, man, just chill. And so in my mind, I was like, you're a terrible actor. You're not chill at all. Everyone's gonna know. You're gonna get fired from the show. All these like intrusive thoughts enter my brain, and then I need to go into the scene and I need to be present in whatever, story we're trying to tell in that particular scene. And I remember I did it and I was convinced that I was gonna get fired from the show. And then we wrapped and then months go by because the show wasn't released yet. And then I was like, as soon as it came out, they released all the episodes. I went back to that exact scene and I watched it and I was like, that was great. I was totally okay. I was totally fine. All this negative talk that I had had for so many months, I've lost sleep over this one moment.
I bet.
And it all turned out to be okay.
How have you converted that going forward? Like when that creeps in, what do?
I just remind myself that scenario. It all works out okay. It always does. And everything kind of happens for a reason. You have to just not get too in your head, which is a hard thing to do for me. And I think for a lot of actors and just a lot of humans. But yeah, just to know that it all works out and you're not living and dying by a specific moment. And also editors are amazing.
Yes, they are. They can do wonders. They can make it look great or they can make it look really bad. So I think those are the people you got to be friends with.
Yeah.
I'm curious as you were talking to think about, you encounter so many different actors at all different stages of their careers, some who've been around for so long, some who maybe just started yesterday. What is a common pitfall that actors fall into when they're starting in this industry, or one that even experienced ones can still find themselves falling into?
Yeah, I think it's just battling through the discouragement. As we kind of talked about earlier, you receive a lot of no's before you receive a yes. But yeah, just continuing to celebrate the small victories you had, whether you got an audition in the first place, or you felt like you crushed an audition, or just you showed up. I think it's really just celebrating the small victories that keep you moving forward, because it's easy to get discouraged and lose track of what your dream is and lose track of who you are, especially, I mean, this industry, especially. Yeah.
How do you celebrate your wins? I do a really shitty job celebrating wins in general. So I'm always curious about what people do, because I want to try to do more of it.
Yeah, I think I share the victories with friends and family. I think I celebrate by working really hard to be the best I can be. Like if it's an audition and I end up booking it, I celebrate by really going hard on that role and trying to do my best when the opportunity is there. Or, I don't know, partying with friends.
Speaking of friends, actually, I want to go there. What does your circle look like?
Yeah, for a while I had most of my Michigan crew moved out to LA, so I had a big cluster of us who were here. And then along my journey in this industry, I've made so many close friends as, as actors or whatever. We share the same, job. So at this point, many of those Michigan friends have sadly moved away. Austin took all of them. I have everything against Austin. But now my network, it's all over, man. There's so many different social groups that we're a part of. I have a few really close actor friends that I made on a show that I worked on that I see all the time. And it's kind of nice because we're, going through the same things. But
you're able to bond with them on, like, there's just an innate understanding of what you're going through.
Yeah.
So even if you can't verbally articulate it, they just know.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also my family. I have my sister and brother-in-law, and they have 2 kids out here, and then my brother lives out here. So, I got a good group, kind of half in, half out of the industry.
I've had an actor I've interviewed before talk about how he had his close-knit group of friends, similar to you. And as he started to grow in his career, his friends shifted in the way that they approached him, looked at him, because there was a level of notoriety that came with the work that he was doing.
Yeah.
And, as he continued to get more exposure, grow on Instagram, all these different things, his friends almost started treated him like a celebrity. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, you're a big time now. Mm-hmm. You're Mr. Big Time. Mm-hmm. And he talked about how he struggled with that because he's like, I'm still me.
Yeah.
Right? Like whatever's happening externally because of the work that I'm doing doesn't change who I am. It's not like I don't want to hang out with my friends. Yes, I've become busier, but that's just a byproduct of my work. I'm wondering, as you've grown in your career, as you've made friends in the industry, you've talked about your Michigan friends, whether you've experienced that sort of tension or resistance that you're like, no guys, like I'm still Tim.
Yeah. Well, I have all of my friends contact my agent now before speaking to me. So it's established. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's like, it truthfully is like most of my crew I've been with since we were kids. And they're just stoked for me, to be honest. It's not weird at all. They're just happy. They're just excited. I don't really have anyone around me that's like puts me up on this pedestal. And if I did start acting any different, they would immediately humble me. You know what I mean? So it's like,
it's important.
It is. And I like this, it can go to your head pretty fast.
Has it at any point?
No, like it's cool. I appreciate the notoriety because that means I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
I'm getting recognition for it. I'm, advancing in my career, but no, not at all. It's like, it really depends on where you come from. Like in that particular scenario, it's on the friends, it's not, or maybe, I don't know him, maybe he acted a little different. So I think maybe he sets the tone and then they kind of follow. I don't know. No, it's just very important to keep people around you that just have your best interest at heart and not like the bigger thing that you've become.
How do you balance your public persona and your private persona? Like, are they separate?
Yeah, I think that's tough now with social media. It's always important to me to represent myself true to who I am. But I think anyone that meets me right away kind of just gets a vibe for who I am. Steven. But no, I mean, it's hard because there is this opportunity to overshare. And when I put something up, I'm speaking to hundreds of thousands of potential people. So I think you do run it through the filter of like, am I saying the right thing or saying the wrong thing? But I think at the end of the day, everything I try to represent myself as is true to who I actually am.
I've had people comment that they've found themselves self-censoring because of this fear of saying the wrong thing.
Yes.
But it takes away from them being true to themselves.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely an issue, but I already self-censor, and I think that's part of what makes me me is that I'm running it through is this appropriate? Like, it's just my internal dialogue. So there's an, elevated step when speaking in interviews or, you know, doing social media stuff. But I think at the end of the day, I try and represent myself pretty true to who I actually am.
Do you ever find yourself struggling with keeping yourself constantly in front of people because of what you're trying to do? I mean, I think we live in a time now where unless you're constantly front of mind, there's a potential that you're left in the dark.
Yeah.
And so whether that's posting on social media, which comes with its own, you know, echo chambers of negativity and challenges, constantly trying to do more.
Yeah.
Get that gig, get that job, get that brand partnership, get that promote, whatever.
Yeah.
Are you finding yourself at times just like, it's just too much?
Yes. Yeah. I say it all the time. If social media wasn't such a big part of my job, I would get rid of it. I truthfully would. It's just too much to think about. It's like some amazing opportunities come with it. And I meet amazing people and get to do cool things. And there's, you know, you can make some money, but it is a job. And at times just being so plugged into all the things you just said is like, yeah, it's a lot of work. And you know, our industry is exactly that. It's like you have to stay relevant in some way or another, or else you will be forgotten. That's just the truth.
Yeah.
So finding organic ways to stay true to yourself and also remind people, you're like, I'm not here. I'm an actor. You're like, hey, hire me. Yeah, there's a balance to it.
Yeah. When was the last time you wanted to quit social media?
Earlier this morning.
Okay.
I literally had a conversation with my girlfriend this morning. I was like, you know what? I would just quit Instagram if I could. I would. I swear I would. It's just a lot, you know? And that's not to say that all those amazing things don't come with it, because there are. I don't take those things for granted at all. But
we're not denying the opportunities that come with it, the ability to connect with so many people. Like there's positives that come out of it.
Absolutely. But I mean, like, what are we doing? It's like we gotta be sharing everything all the time. Like, it's just too much, in my opinion.
Is there a part of you that you reserve, that you do not share? Like, this is a line I don't cross. This is just me.
You know what's funny is like sometimes, and this relates back to our point earlier of kind of representing yourself in a certain way. Sometimes I don't share what I'm going through and like what I'm actually feeling at the time. It's like, oh, I went on this amazing trip. It was amazing. Everything was great. But actually there's so much happening here. So I think that's where I might fall short, is not always sharing the troubles that I'm going through or the anxieties that I'm feeling. But when I do, the response is amazing. People reach out from all over and they connect with you. So that is one of the, I think, silver linings of social media.
It's interesting what you just said. I've had on a guest talk about how he's celebrated for his vulnerability on social media because he has the platform.
Yeah.
And when he does that, people are like, that's amazing. And so it encourages him to be more vulnerable. But that's almost manufacturing vulnerability, again, for external validation.
I know. Yes. Yeah, I know. And it's complex. And I think as long as you're staying earnest to who you are, then it's genuine. But the moment it crosses over into the other realm of, oh, I'm just receiving all of this recognition from people and you're feeding off that, then it becomes a little tricky. But I don't know. It's, it's tough.
I think we're all just figuring it out. As well.
Exactly.
Do you have any particular advice for someone who's sort of stuck in that zone of like, I have to constantly be posting and sharing and liking and commenting and doing all of these different things on social media, and it's like, I know this is bad for me, I need to pull myself out of this rabbit hole, I can't do it?
Take a social media break.
That's so important.
You know, it is. And it's like, as I say that, I'm trying to listen to myself. Like, I used to do this. I used to just take long breaks off social media, and I used to like journal more and do all the things I want. Like, there was so much more time in the day for me to be present and be with my own thoughts rather than worrying about what I need to say to this person or this or that. So Yeah, I think social media breaks are good. We should start that. We should start the hashtag social media break. Instagram might come after me. I might disappear, but either way, yeah, just take a break, you know, talk to your friends, not the people that you don't know online.
It feels like we've lost our ability to communicate with people in person because we're so, you know, last night we were out for dinner and I looked around, I had my phone in my hand and then I looked up and these gents had their phones in their hands. Yeah, and we all do it, right? Like we get immediately sucked right back into it. I'm sitting in your company, I'm sitting in your presence, but for some reason I'm more interested in what so-and-so posted or this reel of this or this comedy sketch, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, how do we pull ourselves out of that?
You have to, like any other addiction, I think you have to become aware of it and then actually take steps towards, just saying it out loud is not going to fix the issue. And I know exactly what you're saying. Like that gives me so much stress to like be at a table with people. I literally pull out my phone. If someone else does, I'll put it away. I can't do it because like the thought of two of us sitting with each other with our phones out just drives me crazy. But yeah, I think just reminding yourself, like yesterday I had a haircut and I was there early and I was parked out by the ocean. And I realized I had the windows open, the ocean breeze was going through, but I was looking at my phone. And I was like doing some work, but also just looking at my phone. I was like, wait a minute. The ocean's like literally like the Pacific Ocean is right there and I'm looking at my phone. Why? But I think we all fall in that trap.
Yeah, it really is a challenge. Like my fiance and I have had this conversation so many times of my inability to be present sometimes because I'm immediately on my phone.
Yeah.
And if I don't have my phone in front of me, I know every time I hear that little ding or that sound or that vibration, like I have to check it.
Yeah.
But yet, at the same time, I've noticed this recently. When I'm filming these episodes, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb.
Yeah.
And it's nice. It's nice. Like, I don't have it on me. I'm not thinking about it.
Yeah.
I was traveling in Banff recently, which I know you've been recently too. There was no reception in a lot of the places.
It's one of the best. Yeah.
I was like, this is incredible. I love this. I don't care what's happening in the world. I'm just looking at this beautiful scenery.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you capture that and do that in your regular day-to-day? And to your point, I think it requires intention
and I think setting boundaries. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. What do we have to do to not see a gorgeous mountain and be reminded we shouldn't be looking at our phone? And I think for me, it's I wake up and I try not to start my day on my phone. I don't open any of the apps for a while. I kind of just stay away from it. I might check emails if I have to, but I really try to regulate how much I'm going on, you know, Instagram or whatever else. But it's hard. It's hard. It's hard. It's an internal battle every day. But
I want to go back briefly to the soccer part of your life.
Yeah.
You played soccer at the Division 1 level.
Yeah.
So to get to that level means you've put in quite a significant amount of work into that. Like you've spent years, like most of your life.
Yeah, since I was 5.
You generally start to build an identity around yourself as being the soccer player. You get to that level, you're obviously competing at that level because you want to keep going further and further. Did you have a hard time pulling yourself out of that identity? Like once that was over, you're no longer the soccer player.
Yeah, that was challenging for sure. A lot of my life, most of my identity was being Tim the soccer player. And I was good at it, you know, so like it made me feel good. Like it was really part of who I was. But yeah, once that went away, I had a little bit of a identity crisis, you know. I was like, what do I bring to this world? And honestly, that's when I found acting. And I realized that it wasn't necessarily the sport or the thing. I was enough and I could just parlay that into the next thing. But I mean, it's tough not to get wrapped up in, or have your identity wrapped up in one thing, especially when it goes away.
Do you remember the moment you played your last game in that official capacity?
Yeah. I was a senior. We were in the NCAA tournament, and we lost to Duke. And I'll never forget it because like I was the only senior at the time, and there's this picture of me in the Michigan State paper, and I'm just like squatting on the ground with just crying, just upset because the idea that I was losing that part of me, that, you know, that person who played in this awesome competitive platform was gone, it was heartbreaking. It felt like I was like shedding a layer of myself. But the beauty is when you shed a layer of yourself, you grow a new one. So it set me up to, you know, do what I'm doing now, which is crazy to even think that I'm an actor, to be honest. Like, it took me a long time to be like, oh yeah, I'm an actor. It took me a lot of gigs to be like, yeah, I am an actor, because I felt like a phony. But now it's just, you know, this is the most recent version of myself.
Imposter syndrome is a hard one.
Tough.
How long after you started acting before you finally were able to confidently say to people, I'm an actor?
When did I start acting? 7 years. So 7 years. Honestly, it was probably 3 years. It was probably till I booked my first like actual show. I had booked pilots and other, you know, small parts, but I was always a little shy to call myself an actor because I felt like I was disrespecting the people who had been acting their entire lives. And the more I talked about it, the more I realized that I deserve to be here as much as anyone else. I just found it later in my life. And yeah, it still feels a little weird to call myself an actor.
Why?
Again, it is.
You've booked shows on Netflix.
Yeah.
You're doing all these incredible things. I would describe you as an actor. So this is self-imposed.
For sure. I think it's just a little bit of doubt. You know, you're like, is it, even with all the success that you find in this industry, and I've been very grateful and to find, you know, some success and work as an actor for some time now. But I don't know, you never know how long that's gonna, you know, last. You know, there are lulls in this industry. So I think until I'm back on a set, next thing I book, I'm gonna call you and be like, yeah, I'm an actor again. Yeah. We're back. We're back. I wasn't before, but I'm an actor again. Yeah. But I think that's important because it's not my full identity. I am an actor, but it's part of who I am.
Okay, so what's the rest of Tim look like?
I would say mostly an optimist, definitely battling the challenges of what the next iteration of me is. As I get older, it's like just trying to be the best I can be, but also recognize that there are so many anxieties and stresses that come with this industry and becoming an adult. I am an adult. I'm an adult, I swear. I think I'm an adult. I'm gonna call my mom real quick and make sure I'm an adult.
Mom?
I'm sweating. But I don't even remember the question.
You're doing great, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Just call me an actor.
Yes. You're a wonderful actor.
Thank you. But what were you saying?
We were talking about identity. Like, who is Tim beyond the actor?
I think he's just figuring it out, to be honest. And that's why I was really looking for this conversation, because life's confusing right now.
Yeah.
You know, as I enter this stage of my life, a lot of my friends have kids now and they're married, and I feel a little behind. So being okay with who I am at this exact moment. That's who I am.
It's interesting because on the outside, you're an actor living in the film capital of the world.
Yeah.
You do all these incredible things. You go to movie premieres, you hang out with cool people, you get brand partnerships, you do this, and this. But then here you are going, you know, I feel a little behind because my friends are getting married, having kids. And it's interesting to hear you say that, because I would suspect you have friends who are looking at you going, hey, that lifestyle must be really cool.
Yeah, it's something I'm very aware of. But I think the thing to take away from that is that we all have our own internal battles, and we all have insecurities and doubts. A lot of them are very common. And the more that I talk about it with people, the better I feel about where I'm at. And you're absolutely right, Pete. Like, I have my friends who are like, oh my gosh, that looks so sick. That was an amazing trip. I was like, that was. Also holding that baby at night looks awesome. I'd love to do that. But yeah, just trying to find a way, and a productive way, to be okay with where I'm at. Even though, my life is amazing in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
and I don't take for granted that I have amazing opportunities. But
What gives you that kind of confidence that, you know, when you have a child one day, you'll be able to give that child everything?
yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'll be able to give him everything. That's a self-doubt, but I know where my heart is. I know that that's like one of the most special things you can do in life is to raise a kid. And I just have so much love to give a future child. I do. And I see babies on the street. I'm like, oh my God. But I just want to do for a future child what my parents did for me, which is just give me all the love and support that I've ever needed to hopefully be a good person on this planet.
You're in an industry that requires a lot of your time when you're working.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, you've got downtime in between, but when you're working, you're working. Like, your schedule is not yours. I'm curious about how you balance that right now with your girlfriend and your family and all those things, and then the hopefully one day introduction of a child. You know, how I'm sure you're already thinking about how you balance your life now.
Yeah.
When you throw that in there, that's a whole other thing. How do you balance yourself?
I think that'll be the biggest struggle because when I am working, I like to be all in on work. I like to be on my own island, preparing my stuff, go in, do my thing. I think that'll be the toughest part for me is the balance. But I'm hoping that everything that has led me until this point in my life will have set me up to be able to do that. You know, being an athlete, practicing during the week, going to school, maintaining a relationship. I think I've lived enough life to find my way through it or stumble my way through it when it comes. And I'm very good at being disciplined when I need to be. So I think it's just kind of dealing away with all the distractions and really focusing on what I need to do. And that's being the future husband, father, and hopefully working actor.
Yeah. I want to ask you one more question here. Actually, two questions. The first one is, you know, knowing everything you know today as an actor, when you were first starting off in that journey of yours, what's one piece of advice that you would give to a young Tim who's about to start on something like this? The advice that you needed to hear when you were starting.
Yeah, man, it's tough. Try to think of where my head was at when I first started. I think it's to recognize your own uniqueness that you bring to everything you do. For acting, specifically for my career, recognizing that I'm different literally than everybody else. So as long as I be me and bring that to the character and then not sweat the little things, I think that's the important thing I could have told my younger self when I started this journey. And was to call myself an actor as soon as I took my first class. First monologue, I'm an actor.
I am an actor.
Own it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Your relationship with your father,
Mm-hmm.
you've spoken quite highly of him. What's something that you've learned from him that you hope one day to be able to share with your children?
Oh man. No matter which way life redirects you, it always works out the way it's supposed to work out. Even if it's hard, and even if it's challenging, just to be a good person and keep moving forward, and everything else will fall into place.
Amazing. Tim, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was wonderful.
I
appreciate your time, your honesty. You're an incredible actor.
Hey, this is why I came here. Where's my glam team?
But really, you're on an inspiring journey, and I'm genuinely happy for, you know, like just a human that you are, because you know, just again from that very first conversation that we had over the phone to now sitting here with you, just having this, you know, this chat, you have so much to offer, and I'm so excited to see that. I can't wait to see the type of man you become when you have children. And I think for anyone who doesn't think you're an actor, they have no idea. Because
Well,
you
all
are
know.
through and through. You're amazing.
Thank you so
for your
much. This
time.
was great. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody.